So, hello everybody, and welcome to Jazz is Our Democracy, a series of talks in which we explore the connections between the musical tradition of jazz and the development and struggles of democratic societies. My name is John Steinmark. I'm a part of Jazz Montez, cultural collective based in Frankfurt, Germany, which hosts concerts and festivals, operates a record label, and produces all kinds of musical content. Next to me sits Delvon Lamarr of the Delvon Lamarr Organ Trio, a ferocious soul jazz outfit that is about to play a concert here with us at Jazz Montez tonight in Frankfurt. Delvon, we're very happy to have you here.
What up, y'all?
So, Delvon, I'd like to start by asking you about just telling us where you grew up and what your first introduction to music was.
I grew up in South Seattle. I was in a kind of a ghetto project just a little bit. My first introduction to music is my brother got into hip hop when hip hop first came out, and he ended up having like samplers and turntables. He started buying records and doing all of that, and so I was kind of in that influence. At the same time, my mom was really into like old R&B blues like B.B. King, Albert King, and gospel, Mahalia Jackson, James Cleveland, and all the old soul music. So I was just kind of brought up around music in general, like all kinds of music. So,
and what kind of drew you to music at first specifically? What did you find most exciting about that kind of music that you heard at a young age?
Well, when I started playing music, one of the things that I really got into John Coltrane. It's like I was in like the little jazz band in 8th grade high school. At that time, I was playing kind of whatever instrument I could get my hands on. And I saw somebody playing a tenor sax, and I told my mom, I want to play tenor. And my mom got excited because she loves the saxophone. So she pretty much immediately went out and bought me a saxophone. And one of the first songs that I was really one of the first songs that really like spoke to my soul was John Coltrane's My Favorite Thing. My brother ended up giving me a cassette tape, and he said, man, I think you're gonna like this. And so I put it in. The first track was My Favorite Things, Coltrane, and I was all about jazz ever since then. So that was a huge influence.
Yeah, wow, that's a powerful piece of music. Can you describe more in detail the experience of like hearing that for the first time and like what it did to your sort of mind and your musical, feelings?
At the time, I didn't know a saxophone could be played like that because, you hear saxophone in the background, but I never really paid attention to it. It's just like, oh yeah, there's just horns in the back. But listening to Coltrane, hearing somebody play a saxophone like that, like the speed, the ability that he was to in and out of key changes, and like especially like listening to Giant Steps, and it's like I still can't play that song. but it just I don't know, it really spoke to my soul, like what he was doing. I really felt it even at an early age. I don't even know how old I was, probably 8th grade, 9th grade. And man, it spoke to me, and I started getting in deeper into jazz, starting to discover like other artists, and yeah.
started playing the sax, or you still play the saxophone, because we know you as an organ player, right?
I do still play saxophone. I have one. I don't really play it much, but every now and then I dust it off. But my first instrument I ever played was a baritone horn, and I actually lied my way into, like, I think it was 7th grade, like, band. It was one of those you had to take the elective classes. It was like you either had to take cooking or piano or guitar. I didn't want to do any of that, so I just took the guitar, just, I don't know, random. And I got in a band. I saw a horn on the floor, and I told the band teacher, who I'm still friends with today, is Sam Chambliss, is the man that I owe him a lot of credit to my abilities too. But I just lied to him. I said, I can play that. He was like, good, I'll put you in band. And then the next semester, I was in band, and I picked up this horn, and I looked at the guy next to me, and I played what he was playing just right out the gate. And so from there on out, I used to go back in the band room and just put together instruments, and that's how I discovered I can play anything. So like clarinets, flutes, trombones, tuba. I played whatever the band was missing. That's what he would put me on when he discovered I can play every instrument.
Sounds like an all-round musician. Yeah, okay. So
it comes in handy.
Yeah, I bet. How did you end up playing the organ then?
Kind of the same way. I was a drummer. Like after going through the whole multi-instrument thing, I ended settling on trumpet and drum because those were two of my favorite things to play. And I ended up getting a call to play with this organist in Seattle. His name is Joe Doria. And we played every Wednesday night, and it was just guitar, organ, drums, just swinging straight ahead stuff. And I ended up, one day a drummer came in and sat in on the drums, and I just kind of asked Joe if I can play the organ. And I sat down at that organ. I played it like I've been playing it my whole life. I basically learned how to play organ by watching him do it every week. So, yeah, so I've been doing it ever since. But here's a funny story. So I was so excited to play organ when we first started, when I first started. I didn't have a van, but I had an organ. And so I used to haul. We have a place called U-Haul, is basically rent the truck. And so I used to have to rent a box truck just to get the organ to the gig. Sometimes I would pay more for the truck than I made at the gig. You know, I just wanted to play. So, yeah, I was determined to play organ.
So where did you find that organ?
There's a newspaper. It's like a local newspaper called The Little Nickel. And they have a classified section. And this was crazy. I actually was looking at that. It was maybe 2 o'clock in the morning, and I saw somebody said a Hammond A100 for sale. It was like $400, and I was like, should I call right now? And I was like, forget it, I'm gonna do it. And I literally called them at like 2 o'clock in the morning, and they answered the phone, and it was like these rocker dudes who just moved into this house. And the organ was there, and they just wanted it gone. And so they were up partying. And I was like, all right, I'll get there in the morning. Like, soon as U-Haul opened up, I went and got a truck. I went to go pick up this organ. And, yeah, that's how I started playing organ, in a U-Haul truck.
can you describe the Seattle music scene a bit for, us people from around the world who might not be too familiar with it?
There's a lot of good music happening in Seattle. There's a big soul scene up that way, like a funk and soul scene. I don't know about grunge anymore. I don't know if it's still a thing. I don't really hear much about it, but I've been out of Seattle for a little bit now. I don't live there anymore, but you got bands like McTuff and, like the funk jams every Friday night at this club called the Sea Monster. If you're ever in Seattle, go to Sea Monster. It is the spot. That's where all the stuff happens. It's just I don't know. It's just one of those things where there's a lot happening there, and
melting pot.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like the hidden gem of like funk and soul. Like people aren't really paying attention to Seattle, but they should.
Wow, it's dope. So, okay, let's talk a bit about jazz right now, and specifically improvisation. So, improvisation obviously plays a very important role in jazz. Could you describe what it means to you personally?
For me, I speak for me. Like when I improvise, when I'm playing, I'm pretty much playing my feelings, like how I feel at that moment in that time. Anything could happen. Like I don't know what I'm gonna do. It's like I play what I feel. And if I don't feel it, I don't play it, It's hard. It's hard to describe because it's so internal and deep that it's just kind of whatever happens. So it's not really something I can explain very well.
Is it something that you'd say also plays a role in your life, more generally speaking?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. When I'm out and about and I hear all kind of things, like just from like being here listening to the trains, like I was in my hotel and you can hear these sounds at night, all of that stuff I kind of internalize, and it actually helps me become a better player because I hear these rhythms in things, and sometimes I write music based off of the sounds that I hear. Like just walking down the street and car horns are going and people are talking, these different rhythms of different footsteps. Man, I've created drum beats off of that, just listening to people walk, So, everyday life experiences definitely influences what I like, how I play and how I interpret the music that I play and how I interpret music in general.
How does that translate to playing together with your group? Because, it's one thing to improvise by yourself, but it's another thing to be on a stage with some other individuals, other musicians, and to make something happen. So basically, can you describe how it is? Well,
it's kind of the same principle. It's like when we play, there's a set format. Like a lot of jazz has a set format. It's like you have your melodies in, then you have your improvisational, and then you have like your out melody, or so on and so forth. But that improvisation, like that translates to everybody on the stage. Like, we don't know what's going to happen. It's like completely like, again, it comes back to listening. Like when we're playing and like we get to a solo section, the drummer does something with a beat or hits an extra snare drum hit, like that triggers like more ideas in my head. And so therefore, I will play off of that, and vice versa. They will play, like I can throw out a melodic line or something like that. The guitar player, it's all about listening. He may hear me do that, and he'll piggyback off of that. And so it's just like it literally whatever happens. And like when you play with like musicians who listen really well, like the possibilities are endless. Like there's a lot of things you can do, especially as a trio. It's kind of harder to do with a bigger band, to like do we do a lot of spur of the moment things. Like sometimes we'll just throw in like a Nirvana tune or, a Jimi Hendrix tune, just kind of random in the middle of a song, but we don't know if that's going to happen or not, but it happens and we'll go there. So that'd be a lot more difficult to do with the more people you have, but in a trio format, especially that I control the bass, like, so I can kind of control the direction of the music, I can change the groove, I can like break it down, I can do things, and you'll probably hear a lot of that tonight because I really like breaking things down. It's all about listening, man. So it doesn't matter who you play with. If they can listen well and they got the groove, then the possibilities are endless.
I think you already hinted at it, but so is there a specific attitude that you think everybody needs to bring to the table for that sort of collective, artistry, musicianship to work out and for y'all to sound so incredibly tight?
Yeah, artists got to bring their A game. Like when I show up to play, I'm here to play, man. Like I'll play for 3.5 hours straight. I'll throw in tunes you may not even know. But again, goes back to listening, like being able to listen, even if you don't know it, like pretend you know it, and you just sit in that pocket and do your thing. And that's what I want from all my musicians that I play with, is I want them to be themselves, but in the confines of the style of music, but play you. And so that's important to me, because I don't want anybody to sound like somebody else. I don't want to tell people what to play, because then they'd just be playing me. I don't want that. I want people to play them. Like, this is the song, this is the style. Do your thing within that style. And it's worked out. you know, with all our, like, nowadays we're rotating artists. We have a couple of guitar players, we got a couple of drummers that we rotate through, and they all have different sounds and different styles. And one thing about that, it makes me play different, and makes me, you know, step my game up, you know, because I can't play the same with the two different guitar players. I'm not going to try to play the same with those two, but every artist that I play with, we complement each other, and that's what I'm really loving, like, playing with, like, multiple artists, because they all play different, and it makes me, like, play harder. It makes me be more adventurous in the music. It makes me push the envelope. So, yeah.
Is there something that society, more generally speaking, could take away from that sort of, you know, approach to playing music together?
Yeah, man, just that's a loaded question nowadays. You know, just like on stage and being in a band, like they say, you never know people until you go on the road with them. And, you know, being able to come together and settle your differences, because we deal with that in the band. It's like you got different personality types. You know, some people are laid back, some people are annoying, some people are like, some people are fun, some people talk too much. I'm just kidding. My wife is staring at me, by the way. I'm just kidding. She doesn't talk too much. Anyway, I'm dead. She's gonna kill me. Yeah, but you just have so many different personality types, and just like in the world, there's just so many different personality types. There's so many different types of people. People think differently. People learn differently. So, like, one of the things we have to figure out is how to get back to just, you know, being able to listen and understand one another. Because I think that's the big thing nowadays, is people aren't listening to each other. They're just, like, arguing with each other without understanding what they're actually arguing about, you know. So So that's important. And just same thing with a band. You can have a band. Bands blow up all the time. It's just like a bunch of arguing and yelling and nobody's listening to each other. And then it just just disintegrates, So yeah, you gotta listen and learn from the people next to you. And that's how we grow as a society and as humans.
Yeah, I think your music draws a lot on, kind of 60s, 70s groups like Booker T and the MGs, Barkays, Meters, that kind of people. And they were also, maneuvering in a very difficult time, politically speaking. Do you see any similarities to our time today?
Well, there's always been a correlation between like music and in movements, like societal movements. It always has and it always will be, the kind of a lot of the similarities, like it's hard to explain. I'm not good at explaining, but it's like back then, like a lot of African Americans were, fighting for their rights, their freedoms and rights. And you fast forward today, it's like we're still fighting for those same rights, and not just African Americans, but like the LGBTQ community, the Hispanic community. We're all fighting for rights still to this day. So again, it comes down to just listening to each other and understand where other people are coming from. Like my situation growing up was fine. Like, a single mom household. Like I grew up, she instilled the fear of God in me. So I didn't I was like, my mom was loving, but when the time came, she laid down the gauntlet, so we respected her for that. And I grew up, and I wouldn't be the man I am today if it wasn't for her. But it's like, people just got to listen to each other, like fighting over the same things we've been fighting over for a long time. And it kind of feels like it's actually going backwards at this point, which makes no sense, because if you learn from your history, if you don't learn from history, history is doomed to repeat itself. I'm a firm believer of that. And that's kind of what it feels like is happening today, is like we are going backwards. Mainly because people just don't understand the person next to them. And why? Because they won't listen to them.
Yeah, so I mean, you're saying we're moving backwards in some respects. Are there any specific challenges that you think we're facing as societies today where we could really benefit from taking that approach of listening, of trying to understand, of coming together to work together and to build something, maybe also to build something new?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. It's hard like nowadays because everything's so divided. Like it's really difficult to say what needs to happen, other than just trying to understand from the other side, not just your point of view, but understand the other person's point of view, or at least listen to it and take it in consideration. So yeah, it's really difficult to say what we need to change it because it's just so far out nowadays that like it's hard to see a path forward other than time. It's going to be a lot of years.
Yeah, maybe a change of mindset, a change of attitude can help us figure out a way forward.
There you go. Yeah.
Well, Delvon, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts and stories with us.
All right.
Anything else you'd like to add, to say to the people out there in front of their screens?
I want to say, lovely wife, don't be mad at me. You don't talk too much. You do talk a lot, though. Love you.
All right, I think it's a perfect final sentence. Shout out to everybody, and yeah, peace.
Peace.